I read an article today from The Bulwark. You guys know The Bulwark?
I'm sorry.
We're all big.
They're great.
The Bulwark is awful. They're like, what are they supposed to be, like anti-Trump conservative or something?
Never Trumpers.
But they actually wrote something particularly interesting. They wrote how the Civil War could start. And they said in November of 2022. And yeah.
Oh boy.
And then I read it and I was like, they're not wrong. Not it's speculative, but here's the gist of their opening argument. During the midterm elections, there's going to be left-wing and right-wing people outside of polling stations in swing districts and in many areas of critical importance. And what could happen is that the right, fearing fraud, is watching every door, watching every entrance. Of course, in some of these jurisdictions, many of these people are armed, or maybe not, but either way. In some of these areas, you've got Democrats who believe that Republicans are paranoid QAnon extremists who are going to disrupt the legitimate elections because of their paranoid conspiracy fervor. All that matters is two opposing factions are at a polling place when something looks amiss. And then you get one of either side saying something is wrong here. An argument erupts because neither side will see what the other side sees. It'll never happen. Yeah. They'll say, they just pulled a ballot out. I saw them. What are they doing? That's a second ballot. The liberal side is going to be like, this is it. They're trying to steal the election by lying about fraud again. And then what happens when it comes to fighting? Doesn't matter what kind of fight. What happens when a polling place gets shut down because of left and right conflict? Now, they went on to describe a man drawing a gun, a fight breaking out, and someone getting shot. Then someone filming the video and the video going viral showing a poll worker getting shot and killed at a polling location. That's an interesting point that I think it's possible, not necessarily probable. What worries me is that fighting is, in my opinion, probable. With 2020, this is the first big election, and more than half of Republicans believe there was fraud. So what's going to happen, I think, is that you're going to see a lot of areas, conservatives, Trump supporters, Republicans, out camping in front of these polling places 24/7. You will potentially get a fight or an obstruction to the point where they shut a polling place down. They shut down a polling place in one area, and all of a sudden you've got procedural or statutory conflict. Now there's going to be court cases. Was it legitimate because people couldn't go to vote? People are going to be like, I wasn't able to vote because the Trump supporters shut it down. Trump supporters are going to be like, the left showed up in Antifa and we were fighting. If that kind of conflict reaches polling locations, then I don't know if it's like a shot heard around the world, Fort Sumter style, started the Civil War. But the Bulwark's argument is that could be a catalyst for people saying the election doesn't work, like it doesn't happen. Something interrupts it and we can't come out cleanly with knowing what happened because this stuff could become, I don't know, ubiquitous.
Yeah, that's what Shays' rebellion was they shut down a bunch of court proceedings. The courts were trying to take their properties, so the farmers went and they surrounded the courthouses and were like, no. And then the judges were like, well, I'm not getting involved because there's like 1,000 dudes that are going to kill me if I do. Then they made a bunch of arrests. The government did. They arrested a bunch of the farmers. It was chaos, and then eventually they just pardoned everybody. Because you can't move forward as a nation if you're arresting half your citizenry. There's always going to be a left, no matter where. You're always going to see people to your right, even if they're on the left, because they're right of you. And you may be, there's always going to be someone opposite of you. That's the nature of humanity. I actually tweeted this out. I wonder what you guys think about this. If a republic hacked its own election to prevent a psychotic mob from taking over the government democratically, I thought that you could argue that might be righteous. And I'm interested what you guys think about that.
I think
say there's a group of psychotic murderers that want to cut people open as their cult ritual, and there's enough of them that they can democratically mob rule the vote system and win. Don't we have a republic intentionally to prevent that?
Well, sort of. I mean, first, if you're talking about people violating human rights and the Constitution, then they would be in violation of our government, which is why the Constitution is so important. If a group of weirdo cults who are like, if you vote for us, we'll sacrifice children on an altar at a pyramid to Moloch or whatever, like overtly saying it and trying to do it, then it wouldn't be, those attempting to stop it would actually be on the side of the Constitution.
So if it was more subtle, like we're going to give transgender hormones to kids, we want to make kids like a weird cult, you can make it whatever you want.
I see what you're saying, and this is why I think civil war is
and if a republic were like, you know what, whatever that is, there's a lot of them, but America must reign supreme. We're going to hack the election and make sure, like, would that be ethical?
So here's the issue. No, hacking the election is not ethical. And the issue of the point of the republic is that there's a lot of ideas that we don't like and we think are violating our rights. And so long as this is done procedurally and there's a limit to, how should I say this? If they're going and saying, vote for me, and then we will pass through legislation the right to murder people, we'd be like, no, that's a violation of the Constitution. In fact, think the death penalty is as well. And even though we're seeing abhorrent things, what prevents the country from falling apart, prevents conflict, war, and things getting worse, is that we agree to legislate things and debate them and challenge them. Eventually, however, as you mentioned, is a good point. We get to an issue where they're like castrating kids and bragging about. I mean, this stuff coming out from Matt Walsh is kind of crazy. The Vanderbilt stuff, about the profit incentive and stuff like that. For doing this, you get to a point where it's like, okay, we got a very serious problem. That's why we have a convention of states. We have many legal mechanisms to deal with a government, that is not doing its duties or is overreaching and things like that. But I'll put it this way: if they are outright violating the Constitution, then I don't think it's hacking the election. I think they're the ones who are committing the wrong.
What concerns me when it's not a violation of the Constitution, it's just a change in the culture that I personally think that's why we have a republic, is to prevent a mob of Democratic psychos changing it. And I think what happened was they think that MAGA was a mob of Democratic psychos. So they think that they're justified in the fortification of the election, as Time Magazine put it.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I feel like this particular organization has not gotten enough press, but there is in existence the Committee for Safe and Secure Elections, and it's law enforcement and election officials working together. And I think that all the listeners, I hope the left and the right both look into this organization, because it's helping to, I think, kind of guarantee that this doesn't erupt. I know what you're going to say.
No, stopping it from erupting is good, but here's the problem. If Joe Biden, his brain is broken, we assume it is. I'm saying, like, if it is, let's just say diagnostically confirmed, he's the president. And if you got a problem with that, we have the 25th Amendment, I believe, for removing him. And that's the process by which we do it. We don't allow lunatics to be like, our country's in danger, so therefore I will take it. No. Mm-mm. You think Donald Trump's a threat? That's too bad. The people want him to be the leader. You do not unilaterally decide that you are smarter and that your intelligence allows you to supersede how our system is intended to function.
Although in the military, and this isn't good, probably not good, but there's they would frag their commanding officer if they thought the commanding officer was going to get them all killed. They'll be like, no, someone would slip a grenade into the tent in the middle of the night and the commanding officer would be dead in the morning. And then the next guy in charge would be like, okay, I'm taking over. We're not going to attack.
I don't know about that, dude. What are you talking about?
It's a pretty horrible aspect of Vietnam. A lot of fragging the commander. They'd kill the commander if they didn't agree with, they thought the guy was going to get them all killed.
That's the problem with the draft.
The people have to serve a commander they don't agree with.
People who don't want to be there are forced to be there and will say, screw you.
Yeah, but now we have robots that will take care of all the fighting. But anyway, I think it's also important to note here that our political differences have been weaponized, especially when it comes to big tech social media, which is connected to the intelligence agencies that has been pushing people further and further on the political spectrum. And you look at the echo chambers created, you look at the radicalization, you look at the concentration and promotion of negativity. I think a lot of this brings the hallmark of a divide and conquer agenda that is being done deliberately, where today we are here in the United States where there's legitimate YouGov polls talking about how 40% of Americans think that a civil war is likely within a decade. They think that for a very specific reason, because when you go online, that's all you see. The negativity, the hate, the fighting, all of that. Front page, always. And that has a psychological effect on people, and we are conditioned towards the blue-collar, working-class people of this country fighting against each other. And that's the trajectory that we are on that hopefully we could avoid. But there's too much fuel being added to this fire in order to avoid this pathway.
I want to pause you right there because it's not true. The Democratic Party is overwhelmingly well off. And there was a poll, I think it might have been YouGov as well, that found when you poll people above $100,000 a year, they overwhelmingly want Joe Biden to remain president. And when you poll people under 100,000, of which there's more, they overwhelmingly want him impeached. It is not blue collar versus blue collar. It is suburban liberal elites who are angry that working class people elected Donald Trump to be the human Molotov cocktail.
Yeah, but this case in North Dakota, who was it? It wasn't an elite person. It was two people going at it. Yeah. And one person killed another person. So we're talking about the average Americans here. There are elite people calling the shots here and saying, hey, I want him in power and him in power. But at the end of the day, who's going to be doing the fighting? Neighbors. People who are next to each other, people who are related to each other, people who are friends and family members. But because of the political differences that have been weaponized in this country, they're going to be at odds with each other and, of course, fighting each other, which is absolutely tragic.
Okay, and I can agree. But now let's dig a little deeper. Is it bad that powerful elites will weaponize the differences between people to divide and conquer and maintain control? Of course, they've always done it. Will you then decide to compromise with those who are castrating children? Luke?
No.
So what's
Absolutely
the
not.
solution?
I think that's one particular position that, of course, is strongly divisive. I think there's also a lot of mental health disorders that lead to a lot of people to be radicalized in that particular position. I think there's a lot of unhealthy people. I think there's a lot of people who are not thinking clearly. I think the solution, is a very vast one, and I talk about it a lot. But specifically, that's one specific hyperbolic extreme example. There's other examples that I think do divide, that do bridge this gap. Things like Epstein, things like federal overreach, things like taxes, things like people, of course, just being...
Not taxes.
Well, yes and no, because at the end of the day, who's happy paying taxes? I don't think anyone is. I don't think that even Trump supporters, that rapper lady that endorsed him, I forgot her name. What was her name? She just made a recent political statement. Nicki Minaj. She even made a whole video would be like, where are my taxes going?
Money. Yeah.
Where's my money? Cardi B. Cardi B was like, where's my money?
Where's my money?
Taxes,
She should write a song called Where's My Money?
Epstein, the military-industrial complex. I think there's a big pushback against a lot of these things because at the end of the day, they don't serve the interest of the American people. The American people know that they're being screwed, but every time they're being screwed, they're being told, hey, the other person did it to you. The other person did it to you. And it's not just like that. It's not black and white.
Well, I don't think that we should just gloss over the trans stuff. And I think that we need to make these extremists answer for what their extremes are. I think that taxes are one thing and everybody can kind of agree on how, you don't want to pay too much or whatever. But, we're at a point where, like, I'm sending my kids to school. I'm thinking about where I'm going to live. I'm thinking about where, what communities I want to be in and who I want my neighbors to be. And it's just gotten to a point where I don't think people should be allowed to just not talk about it anymore. Like if you're going to be a part of this party who's doing this to children, who's supporting this to children, then I want you to answer for it. I want to know why you think this is okay. Like this can't just be, oh, well, this is just a fringe thing. Like this isn't really happening. It is happening. And, the Vanderbilt story. I mean, we have to make people answer for it.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about the Matt Walsh stuff later on. But, as it pertains to divisiveness in rhetoric and things like that, there are people who, I think the media wants us divided for sure. Mm-hmm. I think for the most part, Fox News has their problems. Tucker is a bit abrasive, but he's okay. Maybe not necessarily the way I do things. He's much more comedic, and he showed like a picture of Lori Lightfoot as Beetlejuice. That's not the kind of thing we do.
Spicy.
I know Luke's a big fan. He loves Tucker.
I think he's one of the few people that actually criticized Donald Trump, and one of the few people that was actually able to put his feet to the fire and call him out on a lot of important issues.
I think he's good. I think he is. And I think for the most part, the media is overwhelmingly liberal, aside from the one, channel. And then they're manipulating people through just lying.
I'm concerned
endlessly.
with
Emotions,
meme
usually.
culture. Yeah, like I was watching video game play footage last night. Pixelated Apollo, what's up, dude? Playing some Mountain Blade 2, Bannerlord.
You lost me.
At some point, gamers started going, "Let's go, boys! Come on, boys! Let's go, boys!" And it's all about the boys. And they talk about boys like their audience are boys. And I'm concerned that it's like an incel, like it's like I'm just not comfortable with women, so I'm comfortable with guys. Let's have our boys in the military. There's boys, but what's happening is young girls are watching the video and they're like, I want to be part of this. Because if a girl's ever like, let's go, girls, it's me and the girls tonight, I get really annoyed at that. I'm like, why are you like excluding me from this conversation? So I think young girls are seeing this boys rhetoric and they want to be boys.
I think the problem is that there's a lot of women who, Lydia and I were actually talking about this before the show, but I was a tomboy when I was growing up. I wanted to be a boy. Sandlot was a huge movie. I was not only in love with Benny the Jet Rodriguez, I wanted to be Benny the Jet Rodriguez. And if I had some, booby teacher and I was being encouraged to act these, silly, childish, immature thoughts out, I mean, I might not be a mother today.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.